Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is merely 48 hours away. In fact, a ton of people have seen it at this point. To celebrate, I'm going back and taking a look at the best MCU origin story, the original Doctor Strange. Dr. Stephen Strange is a brilliant but arrogant surgeon who gets his career destroyed after a car crash. But a new lease on life is given to him when a powerful sorceress takes him under her wing to defend the world against evil. But before I start with my review for Doctor Strange, let me know your thoughts on this MCU origin story. Talk all the spoilers you want, anything and everything down there in the comments below. And I'm reviewing this film in preparation for Multiverse of Madness, as well as every single X-Men movie. You can find all those reviews in this playlist right up here. And if you like these reviews, if you like movies and TV, this is the place to be, so consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. Going into this film back in 2016, I was already a hardcore MCU fan, and Doctor Strange was one of those characters that I never thought I could see be brought to life. I grew up reading the Jack Kirby comic books with all its trippy, unique visuals. They are just so hard to imagine. They're so unique even in comics to this day. It was hard to believe at any point, back then at least, that it would ever be brought to life as it looked in the comics, that it could ever be a faithful adaptation on a big budget as a wide release film in Hollywood. Lo and behold, the trailers start coming out and I get excited. This has always been one of my favorite characters in the comic books. In regards to the visuals, which is to this day one of the big standout elements of the film, and it really holds up as I just rewatched the film for this review. It's a mesmerizing feat what they achieved, not only because the visual effects look incredible, but to bring this world of magic in Doctor Strange to life. They found an interesting way to visualize the magic these characters use. They found an interesting way to expand the MCU into the realm of mysticism with this film, and it's so trippy and unique and massive, taking its inspirations from The Matrix and Inception, and it's so bonkers to watch till this day when these characters go into the mirror dimension, when they expand the mirror dimension, when they go into the dark dimension by the end. Even the very opening of the film doesn't waste any time in letting you know how trippy things will get. The world just spinning around, these characters walking straight and then suddenly start walking through walls, and everything just kind of fracturing around them. And it's all so interesting. And this is not only my favorite origin story in the MCU, it is not only one of my favorite MCU movies. Michael Jacquino's score is one of the best. It doesn't get talked about enough. It carries that sense of wonder that is captured through Stephen Strange as he reaches Camartage. It picks up the pace very well in the action sequences. I love the theme for the Cloak of Levitation. I love that relationship in the film as well, how it feels like straight out of Aladdin and Carpet. Jacquino just knows how to do a great balance of dark and whimsical and wondrous, and he does all of that in this film. And again, I just don't feel like this score gets talked about enough because it's simply stellar. Furthermore, as we follow Stephen Strange into Camartage, meeting the Ancient One, she opens his eyes, she shows him the possibilities, all the realms that exist in a spectacular scene where the horizons of this man and everything you already knew get absolutely shattered. And while the film doesn't entirely dive deep into all these elements, we get a glimpse at it all. And so that expands our notion of what we can explore in the MCU. So the film is not only interesting in itself, it makes the possibilities of this cinematic universe of the future of this franchise within a bigger franchise extremely exciting. From the colors to the angles to what Stephen Strange sees going up in space, traveling through realms, when his fingers start growing hands that start growing fingers that start growing hands, and everything about this film is unique and really captures your attention. They found a way to make all of this just pop. It looks interesting, it feels massive. The way our characters in the film just look around to this stuff, you feel that sense of awe and wonder as they're themselves stepping into a lot of these realms for the first time. Particularly Stephen Strange, he's eager to learn all of this, and it's just so fun to follow him in this journey. And that leads me to talk about cast and characters. Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange is perfect casting. I love him in this role. I've always found Stephen Strange to be one of my favorite characters of all time, and I love his arc in this film. It's perhaps an obvious arc, but to me what really matters is how effective it is. This arc of going from selfish to selfless, where he starts this film as this brilliant surgeon who's very arrogant, very condescending. He thinks about himself. What does surgery X or Y bring to him as a professional? How does it raise his status? How does it advance his career? He forgot what he took an oath for. And so him being humbled by this accident, where he has to learn something new, where he's not anymore the expert on something, is just a really powerful journey. On top of that, if you know me, you'll know that I love origin stories. I love stories of becoming, and seeing Stephen Strange going from this arrogant, self-destructive, selfish bastard, really, and being humbled through his journey to learn to be something more for others, to serve a greater purpose other than himself. That's always hits the right chords for me. And so this film has all that, with its unique visuals, mesmerizing visuals that we talked about, the great action, but also seeing this character coming from the lowest of low points and getting himself back up constantly, learning to get himself back up through all the adversity, and again, becoming more than he ever was. That's powerful. That always stirs up something in me. And not only does he want to learn the spells themselves, he wants to learn magic, what he can do with magic, what are the possibilities of magic. He wants to learn everything about the lore, about the people that are mentoring him, about Mordo, and about Wong, and about the Ancient One. He starts to poke around into the secrets, much like Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen, did at the very beginning of the film, which is something that makes the Ancient One very scared. And the film is filled with stellar actors around Cumberbatch, from Mads Mikkelsen playing Caecilius, who gives this very fun personality. He has an ideology that he's following through, a goal and a purpose. Mordo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor as well, and it's really fun to see this friendship build, but see how the ideologies clash. As Stephen Strange, he likes to take chances. He's a risk taker, which is very unlike him at the beginning of the film. And so seeing him becoming a student again, becoming humble, going through this journey, and realizing that he must take risks. There are exceptions to the rule, while Mordo is very strict about the rules. He's very strict about the teachings he was given and how he has to follow them, which is something that he tries to impute into Stephen Strange himself. So the film makes this relationship very compelling, as it takes time to develop both these characters and the contrast between the two, as Mordo seeks to elevate himself amongst the society in Camartage, and while Strange doesn't, he yet gets the power by the end. He gets trusted with it from the Ancient One. Tilda Swinton just brings a lot of gravitas into the film. Not only the dramatic sequences, her sense of humor is also really good, but the action scenes. I talked about the opening scene of the film, but she's incredible in this. Even when Caecilius and Strange start fighting in the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York, eventually leading to the outside, leading to the mirror dimension, where the Ancient One comes down to save Strange and Mordo, who are in there trying to work together, but just can't seem to shake Caecilius at all. That's a great sequence, again capturing all these trippy visuals. They are unlike anything we've ever seen. That makes the action sequences themselves unlike anything we've ever seen before. And one of my favorite action sequences is the astral plane fight between Stephen Strange and one of the followers of Caecilius, played by Scott Adkins, who actually designed the fight, and then they just visualized it and made the 3D CG doubles for these two characters as they fight in the astral plane while Stephen Strange is being operated on after being stabbed by Rachel McAdams, who's also great in the film. I love this relationship. I think the film does the bare minimum with it, but it just doesn't just enough for me to care about these two. The fights, all the action in this are incredibly entertaining. I find the action sequences here so good. The hand-to-hand combat is great, the choreography, how it's shot, but it's really the use of the magic that makes it stand out. How the dimensions go up and down when he's fighting those two followers of Caecilius in the Sanctum Sanctorum, throws them out the window, and then changes the window to a different location. This film is just very inventive throughout. What it does with this realm of magic, the possibilities feel endless, and as storytellers, they made this film feel limitless in what it could do. But even with its distinct and unique action sequences, one of the best scenes in the film is when it doesn't do a lot of action, and that is the third act. To this day, the cleverest third act in an MCU film, where after unlocking the Eye of Agamotto, after being passed on the torch by the Ancient One right after her death, that made Stephen Strange realize that it's not about him. He's not the one who's supposed to get the glory. He's just there to help others, which is the oath he first took to become a doctor. And there's real power in that conversation that they have in the astral plane when she knows she's about to die, the future that she saw, to entrust Stephen Strange with it. And so he has the Eye of Agamotto, and as the dark dimension is sipping in, he turns back time, he crosses the realms, and he traps Dormammu, the Dark Lord of the Dark Dimension, in this time loop without any way out. And it's that distincts not only this film, but Stephen Strange as a character. He's not really a fighter per se. As we say in this film, he barely gets out of scraps and physical fights alive. So he uses his smarts, his brain, and his wits, which has been established since the beginning of the film that he has them in spades. But through this journey, he becomes humble enough to relearn how to use that and his new abilities. And so with that, it also creates more friction between him and Mordo, who has a legitimate reason to be mad at him and the Ancient Ones, as he starts to question this whole education that he was given by the Ancient One, where can we break the rules? Can we go against the natural laws of the universe? And so the film gives him a legitimate reason to turn away, to become an antagonist. Because the film doesn't really set him up as a villain. He's not evil, but he sees what Strange is doing, or at least how he's doing things, as evil. And that's what makes Doctor Strange as a film compelling. Within this mystical society of magic users that fight off against metaphysical threats from other dimensions, We have grounded people with strong ideologies. We get to understand those ideologies, why they see the world the way they see it, and how they naturally contrast one another. They're not forced to be pitted against one another. It doesn't feel like the story is dictating that they are facing off against one another. It's these strong ideologies, these strong viewpoints that we get to understand why they see the world this way, and it's their choices that start to rub one another the wrong way. And so we end up with Mordo believing that the world has too many sorcerers and he has to get rid of them. I wish the film had used Mordo as its antagonist, or rather not have an antagonist, because as an origin story we have to spend a lot of time naturally with Strange, but that leaves a lot to be desired with its villains. Caecilius is very well played by Mads Mikkelsen, but he always feels like a stepping stone, because we always know he's working for someone else. He's following someone else's purpose and goal. He doesn't really have one of his own. And Dormammu is in a great scene. He looks incredible. He's this great looming threat that we're constantly told is coming. And that does a good enough job to make us aware of his coming, but it doesn't make for a great, compelling villain, sadly. I think the film's use of these two is just rather underwhelming, where Caecilius represents a great loss for the Ancient One that she doesn't want Stephen himself to become again, but it never explores this relationship with that specific angle. You just understand that it's there, and so it gets brought down just a tad bit because of its villains. But overall, Doctor Strange to me is still my favorite MCU origin story, and just one of my favorite MCU movies overall. To this day, it remains one of the most unique movies in the MCU, a kaleidoscopic expansion into the realm of mysticism with the trippiest visuals ever that I'm always eager to give a rewatch. I'm giving Doctor Strange an A-. And those are my thoughts on Doctor Strange ahead of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. What do you think of this origin story? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you've joined me for my X-Men reviews, thank you so much for being there. And if you haven't, you're still in time. There's a link for them right up here. Thank you so much once more, and I'll be back very soon with my review for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I hope to see you there. So thank you so much to my channel members for supporting this channel, and until the next one, love each other and love the movies.